The 2026 World Baseball Classic starting up. Team USA entering as the betting favorite. The lineup featuring MVP caliber bats, a dominant rotation. We got Cy Young winners, more than 20 former MLB All-Stars. That first game taking place Friday against Brazil. All eyes are going to be on the WBC. Now, for all the reasons why the United States can win this all, let's welcome in one of my favorite guys, our GM, Jim Bowden. All right, Team USA entering this tournament as the betting favorite, and you look at one of the main reasons, and it's roster depth. I mean, this team includes 21 former MLB All-Stars, more than any other country. How big of an advantage is that?
It's huge, and it has every single element, right? It's got hitters, it's got power, it's got speed, it's got gold glove players everywhere, it's got athleticism, starting pitching, it's got bullpen closers, it's got setup relievers, and you got to give a lot of credit to Mark DeRosa, the manager, and GM Mike Hill, who worked extremely hard over the last 3 years to make sure the best players they could get from the USA were to represent the team, and they were able to accomplish it at a ridiculous level. This team has everything, and it's got depth at every single position. They are the best positioned any USA team has ever been in a World Baseball Classic.
You talk about the depth at every position, and you mentioned the lineup there. It just shows throughout. You have some of the stars, Aaron Judge, Kyle Schwarber, just to name a few. How much offensive firepower does Team USA have compared to other teams out there?
Yeah, so there's two teams that have the most offense, and it's USA and the Dominican Republic. And the USA has the three players, Aaron Judge, Cal Raleigh, and Kyle Schwarber, who last year combined for 169 home runs, just the three of them. Forget everybody else. No team has that kind of power. But the Dominican Republic team, just as good, really, offensively up and down, led by Juan Soto, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Julio Rodriguez, Junior Caminero, Manny Machado, and others. But, yeah, so the USA and Dominican, they've got the two best lineups. Nobody's going to out-hit them. No one's going to outscore them. It is powerful. And by the way, they could steal bases, right? Bryce Terang, the second baseman, Byron Buxton, PCA, as well as going yards. So it's a very well-balanced offense for the United States and Dominican Republic as well.
And beyond the bats, the roster is just filled with elite athletes out there who can also cover some serious ground defensively. How much can the team's defensive skill impact these games?
Jenny, USA has a big advantage defensively up the middle. No team has the range that USA is going to put out there. With Bobby Witt Jr. at shortstop, Bryce Terang at second base, and both Byron Buxton and Pete Crow Armstrong in center field, with Cal Riley behind the plate, those guys alone have won 5 Gold Glove awards. Those guys, those 5 guys, get to more baseballs than any other team in this World Baseball Classic. So what does that mean? That means, every team gets 27 outs over 9 innings, right? But when you have this kind of range, they're going to take singles away. They're going to take doubles away. So instead of giving the other team 27 outs, they're really only going to be giving them 24 or 25 outs because of how elite this leather is that the USA team's going to be throwing out there. So that is the one aspect of this team, or one of them, where there's a big differential between them and everybody else.
There's another big difference between them and everybody else when you talk about some of the pitching staff that's out there. The U.S. could roll out 2 Cy Young winners. We got Skubal and Skeens at the top of the rotation. How dominant can that 1-2 punch be in this type of format?
Yeah, it's going to be dominant. I mean, look, Skeens and Skubal are going to win their starts, right? Yeah. Skeens is going to make 2 starts, I'm told. Skubal's going to make 1. So that'll give them 3 wins out of the 7. Huge advantage. But here's the only part that concerns me a little bit. Neither one is going to pitch in a championship game. Neither one is scheduled. It's actually going to be Nolan McLean of the New York Mets, who's a rookie. And look, I love McLean. He's got ace stuff. But if I'm in the championship game against the Dominican Republic lineup or against the Japanese lineup, I would have liked to have seen the U.S. kind of manipulate the rotation so both Skeens and Skubal could pitch that game. That's what I would have tried to do. But I'm not going to downplay the talent and the depth of this USA starting pitching. Logan Webb, who's going to start game 1, is certainly an ace for the San Francisco Giants. And I've said this before, I like McLean so much that I've told people that if the Mets get to the playoffs in October, I think he pitches game 1 and Freddie Peralta pitches game 2. That's how much I like him. I would just feel more comfortable if Skeens and Skubal were slated to pitch that championship game.
Jim, why do you think they slated it this way then?
Yeah, it's because the guardrails that the major league teams have given Mark DeRosa, the manager. And what does that mean? The teams are planning on these guys being their opening day starters. So when the championship game is played, it doesn't line up to when Skeens and Skubal are to make their first start. So that's why neither one are going to be there. On the flip side, with the Mets, Peralta's going to pitch opening day, which allows McLean to fit in nicely there on that final date of the championship game. So that's why.
Okay, so I say we, like I'm part of this. Say they have the lead. Go USA, though. Then you got to look at the bullpen, right? Of course. So you got guys like Mason Miller, David Bednar, both bringing triple-digit velocity, closing experience. How important is having those shutdown arms at the back end in this tournament?
Yeah, it's huge because in a close game, 8th to 9th inning is taken care of. If you're blowing someone out, you can rest the closers for the next game. So it's to have two impact guys like that where you can either use them in back-to-back games or you can use them both in the same game. You can kind of set it up the way you want it. But I will say this, Jenny, the key is going to be the setup guys getting to them. It's going to be Griffin Jacks. It's going to be Garrett Whitlock. It's going to be Gabe Spire. Those three guys are going to be very important pitching those 6th, 7th, and 8th innings. Because remember, the starters aren't going to go deep in the games. They're going to be on pitch counts. Their major league teams are going to give Mark DeRosa the exact amount of pitches that they'll let him throw. And then they come out of the game. And when they come out of the game, that bullpen has to either maintain the lead or keep them in the game. So USA, again, their pitching depth, start to the bottom of this pitching staff, is going to be far better than any other team.
This roster, too, in general, is just filled with so many players who have delivered on the biggest stages in the biggest moments. You look at guys like Will Smith and Alex Bregman, Bryce Harper. They have huge postseason resumes. How valuable is that experience when, these games have that feel like it's October?
Jay, that's a great question because the feel is going to be World Series. 3 years ago, when I was calling the World Baseball Classic for SiriusXM, I could not believe what the vibe was like inside Marlins Park. It literally is as loud or louder than a World Series. And so the vibe is the same way. And when we watched that game end with Ohtani striking out Trout, it felt like the World Series. So you want to have players that can perform at the biggest stage in the biggest moments in the loudest environment. And if you remember 3 years ago, who was the star for the USA team? Trey Turner. And Trey Turner had experience winning a World Series in Washington on the big stage. He was used to the big stage, and that showed up in the last World Baseball Classic. And as you mentioned, guys like Bryce Harper and Will Smith, who have been to the World Series, Aaron Judge, those guys know what it's like to play in these games, and that is a huge advantage for sure.
You mentioned the word redemption, and that, you look at the extra motivation that this team has. The United States lost to Japan 3-2 in that 2023 championship game. So this group is coming in there. They've got some unfinished business. How much does that mindset kind of inspire this team to go out there and finish this off?
This team was built with a chip on the shoulder. This team was built because they lost 3-2 in that game. Mark DeRosa, the manager, wanted to come back and redeem himself and USA. And he started working on this year's team 3 years ago. And he started having those phone calls with Aaron Judge, with Bryce Harper, with the stars of the game, and started recruiting them and tried to get the biggest stars to commit early to help recruit the other players. It was a little bit easier recruiting them this time because everybody 3 years ago fell in love with the World Baseball Classic. And everybody wanted to come back. In fact, Trey Turner, who was the best player for USA last time, wasn't even invited this year. They decided to go with Bobby Witt instead, but everybody wanted to be here. But USA's Mark DeRosa worked so hard to redeem the USA. They built, no doubt about it, the best baseball team possible. They didn't just collect stars. They didn't put together an all-star team. They put together a team. Defense up the middle, power, speed, bench players like Ernie Clement, who's going to play all over the diamond for Mark DeRosa, second, short, third, left field, everywhere. This is designed to win the World Baseball Classic, and I think that chip helps. And one last thing that I want to throw in there, Jenny, I also love the fact that he added youth with the veterans, right? Nolan McLean, who we talked about, the rookie pitcher of the Mets, but Roman Anthony, who replaced Corbin Carroll in left field. Here's one of the best young talents we've seen in a long time, the left fielder of the Boston Red Sox, and he's going to be the starting left fielder for USA. So I love the fact that they mixed in veterans along with young rookies, and I think that blend really is going to bode well in this particular tournament.
I love it. I cannot wait. Jim Bowden getting us ready and some insight to get us ready into the World Baseball Classic. Also got to shout out that tie he was wearing, just getting us fired up for Team USA. We look at the shortest odds to win it all. USA at the top, just where we want them.